Oh my gosh, finally, part 5. Let's just get this over with. Number 10, Pulp Fiction. Quentin Tarantino created an instant classic when this movie hit the theaters. It's the funniest film I've ever seen, also very violent. I'd explain the plot to this movie, but it's hard. It's shown out of order, and it's about an assortment of characters. It's got Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta playing mob hitmen, Bruce Willis playing a boxer, Uma Thurman as Travolta's boss's wife, what the heck, and Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer playing boyfriend and girlfriend. The dialogue is something you'd hear out of a Seinfeld episode. What I mean is, it's stuff you'd never really think about in real life. There's a scene where Travolta tells Jackson about the different names of burgers at McDonald's in France. You'd think it'd be a really stupid conversation, but when you listen to it, it's really funny. I quote this movie on a daily basis. Another good scene is when Travolta takes his boss's wife out to dinner. And they talk about, whatever. They eat in a car, and all the waiters and waitresses are dressed like old movie stars. Please tell me this place really exists. But the best scene is when Jackson and Travolta are hired for a job. When they arrive, they have some time to kill, so they talk about why they're there. So long story short, Jackson says that giving a woman a foot massage is not like doing it with her. The way the conversations in this movie change is amazing. I haven't even scratched the surface. I haven't even talked about Bruce Willis or Tim Roth, but if I reveal any more, I'll spoil it. Bottom line, everyone needs to see this movie. Multiple times. Number 9. The Thing. John Carpenter created the best horror sci-fi remake ever. This is a remake of a movie called The Thing from Another World, which is the movie that was on the TV in Halloween, also a Carpenter film. The film is not even close to the original. You see, the original movie was based off a book, so instead of doing the same story as the original film, they did an adaptation of the book. It's about 12 men in an army base in Antarctica. A dog comes into their camp and everything is fine and dandy, until it turns inside out and starts eating all the other dogs. They destroy it, but they think that someone else in the camp is one of these things. It's kinda like a disease, so if one of the cell touches the inside of you, you become the thing. The movie is best on its first viewing. The whole time you don't know who the thing is. On repeated viewings, you know who the thing is, and it takes some of the suspense out of it. I think it's still good. The special effects are the showstopper. This just barely predates CGI, and it shows. It really shows. It's amazing. It is just amazing. My mind explodes every time I see these aliens. It has no definite shape, so every time you see it, it looks different. My favorite is the decapitated head that crawls along the ground. I know how they did it, but it makes my head hurt just thinking about it. Undoubtedly the best alien film ever. Number 8. Casablanca. Let me just say, you cannot be a human being to not like this movie. It's a war movie, but a different kind of war movie. You're not on the battlefield fighting Nazis. No, our hero is in a bar fighting Nazis. Our main character is Humphrey Bogart, one of the best actors of all time. He is the Liam Neeson of the 40s. The plot is a bit complicated. Humphrey Bogart owns a bar in Africa during World War II. Germans constantly occupy the bar, but Bogart is helping the British-American forces. He needs to help 2 American spies that the Germans are after. One of the spies happens to be Bogart's ex-girlfriend, played by Ingrid Bergman, who is in Notorious. One of the Nazis at the bar is played by Conrad Veidt, who is the man who always sleeps in the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. A friend of Bogart's is played by Peter Lorre, who is in a ton of movies like The Maltese Falcon and Fritz Lang's M. My favorite character is the con artist German soldier played by Claude Rains, who is in Notorious and The Wolfman. He has the best lines in the movie. So already you know I love the characters, but the story is something you'd never think of. I mean, a war movie without much violence? That's almost unheard of. But it works so well that I do think it is one of the best movies ever made. Certainly the best war film ever made. Number 7. Ed Wood. Even if you're not a big Tim Burton fan, you gotta love this movie. It has a good sense of humor, is serious at times, and is an all-around uplifting story. This is a biopic of the worst filmmaker ever, Edward D. Word Jr. This is telling the story of how he made 3 of his films: Glen or Glenda, Bride of the Monster, and Plan 9 from Outer Space. It shows all the obstacles he had to overcome to achieve his dream to make movies. But the best part of this movie is Bela Lugosi. He's played by Martin Landau, one of the best actors of all time. And every scene he's in, he is hilarious. He swears at people and it's just funny as hell. I'm not saying swearing is funny, but the way he says it is hilarious. People criticize this movie and say that it hasn't been confirmed that Lugosi sweared, but who cares? It's funny either way. Another thing to note is the makeup. It looks so good on all the actors, not just Lugosi, but Tor Johnson and Vampira too. I got a chance to meet Landau once, and I asked him how long it took to get his makeup on. He said it took an average of 3 hours. 3 hours! I can't even imagine sitting in a chair for that long. What if you had to go to the bathroom, or you had an itch or sneezed? It's not only one of Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's best, but one of Hollywood's best. Number 6. Witness for the Prosecution. Without a doubt, Billy Wilder's best picture. Some may like Sunset Boulevard, or some like it hot better, but this is my favorite. It's about a lawyer, played by Charles Laughton, who has to defend a man, played by Tyrone Power, who is convicted of murder. Laughton thinks he's innocent, and goes off and tries to solve the case, taking more risks than ever before. The movie works because of the chemistry between Charles Laughton and his nurse, played by Elsa Lanchester, who in real life was married to Charles Laughton. Even though the movie is a drama, they act as comic relief some of the time. Lanchester always badgers him to take his medicine and take a nap 10 times a day. Laughton keeps telling her to shut the hell up. Another reason the movie works is the supporting cast. Marlena Dietrich plays the convicted man's wife. She provides a good performance and is a welcome addition to the cast. John Williams also does a great job as Laughton's friend. Una O'Connor is in it too. For all of you that know her screaming, don't worry. She doesn't do that in this movie. She was old at the time and could barely talk. She's a good actress when she's not screaming in every other scene. The reason I love this movie so much is the ending. But I'm not going to tell you. Ha ha ha! Go watch it yourself. Believe me, it's worth your time. Number 5. The Godfather. Often credited as the best movie ever made. I'll believe it. It's got everything you want in a movie. Violence, comedy, romance, drama, chills down your back, and heartbreaking moments. It's about Marlon Brando, who plays the Godfather. He controls a whole cartel of alcohol smugglers. Other mafia leaders want to get him into smuggling drugs. He refuses, and now they're out to bring him down. Brando is attacked, and afterwards he thinks about handing down the mafia to one of his sons. As tradition is, he's supposed to give it to his oldest son, Sonny, played by James Caan, who is Paul Sheldon in Misery. But he has second thoughts because his other son, Michael, has been doing a lot of things that he's proud of lately. Michael is played by Al Pacino. Brando has other children, too. He has another son named Fredo, played by John Cazale, and he has an adopted son named Tom, played by Robert Duvall, and a daughter played by Talia Shire, who played Adrian in Rocky. I can't really explain it, but there's just something about this movie that makes me like to watch it. It may have something to do with my family in the past, who was part of the mafia, but let's not get into that. If you watch it, you'll know what I mean. You may say it's the best movie ever made, but I have 4 others I like better. Number 4. To Kill a Mockingbird. This adaptation of Harper Lee's novel about a girl growing up with her dad as a lawyer in the 1930s is a masterpiece not only to literature but to cinema too. It's about a little girl named Scout who lives in a small town with her brother Jem and her dad, played by Gregory Peck. Her dad is a lawyer who is defending a colored man who is accused of beating and raping a white woman. Scout's dad is hated by the town for defending him, so she must learn to grow up fast in order to understand why everyone is acting this way. On top of that, she's fascinated with the legend of Boo Radley, a man who is locked in his basement by his father and never leaves his house. Scout, Jem, and one other friend are constantly trying to get into the house to see if Boo actually exists. The actress who plays Scout and the actor that plays Jem are very convincing and really draw you into the story. And they also make you believe everything is really happening. Not only them, but Gregory Peck does a great job as the single-father lawyer. He's the best lawyer ever, and this court scene is the best trial I've ever seen in a movie. In fact, Peck won an Oscar for his role, rightfully so. Unfortunately, it lost Best Picture. What a shame, because it deserved a lot more Oscars. Number 3. Mutiny on the Bounty. This 1935 classic about a real mutiny back in the 1700s is so enjoyable to watch and something you can't keep your eyes off of. It's about a captain played by Charles Laughton who is a complete asshole to his crew. He treats them like shit, except the ones that are his right-hand men. One day they get tired of him and mutiny. The mutiny happens halfway through the movie, and that gives us time to set up these characters and let you see what Laughton is doing to these men. A lot of the momentum leads up to the mutiny, which you'd think would be boring, but it's not. Why? Because Charles Laughton. He single-handedly carries this movie and, in my opinion, is the greatest actor of all time. He can play anything. He can play an asshole, comic relief, a sympathetic misfit, a con artist, a serious detective, anything, I tell you. Anything. Clark Gable is also amazing as Fletcher Christian. He's the guy you root for the whole time. He is the definition of awesome. A great scene is when a man is tied to a pole for punishment. During a storm, a man cuts him down and brings him back into shelter. Laughton tells him to go the hell back up there as soon as possible. So the man is tied to the pole for the rest of the storm. If you want to see sparks fly and shit hit the fan, then see this movie. It's a must-see. Number 2. King Kong. Marion C. Cooper and Ernest B. Schoedsack's classic about a giant ape and the island inhabited by dinosaurs is just awesome. Should I really explain the plot? I mean, this movie is so well known, I find it unnecessary, but for all 2 of you out there, here we go! It's about a filmmaker named Carl Denham, played by Robert Armstrong, who was Max O'Hara in Mighty Joe Young, who heads to Skull Island to film a movie. He brings along leading lady Ann Darrow, played by Fay Wray. When they get to the island, she is captured by the natives and used as a sacrifice to their ape god Kong. But Kong likes Ann and decides to keep her around. As he runs off, Carl, Jack, and a few other crew members set out to find her on foot, while fighting prehistoric creatures lost in the past. They get Ann back and bring Kong back to New York, where he runs amok. The number 1 aspect of this movie that I like and think everyone likes most about this are the special effects done by Willis O'Brien, who did the special effects in The Lost World. These effects are so cool. It was the life of Pi of its time. The effects are jaw-dropping and are great to stare at. I could go on for hours to watch these special effects. I could watch these scenes loop and loop and loop and loop and never get bored. Modern viewers may laugh at the cheesy acting and the ancient special effects, but they have to take in mind that this was the 30s, and audiences hadn't seen anything like this. It's a timeless tale of beauty and beast, and everyone who wants to get into special effects must see this movie. It is mandatory not only for them, but everyone else in general. And finally, number 1, The Defiant Ones. I said it once, and I'll say it again. Stanley Kramer is my favorite filmmaker ever. I haven't seen one of his movies that I haven't liked. This is about a white man, played by Tony Curtis, and a black man, played by Sidney Poitier, who are cons chained together. They escape from a car crash and are stuck with each other. Please note, this is the 1950s, so segregation is still going on. So they have to escape. But they're constantly fighting with each other just because they have different skin colors. They'd kill each other, but if one did, they'd have to drag the dead body of the other. So they have to work it out. I don't know why, but my favorite scene is when they first try to break off the handcuffs. They keep repeating what they're going to do once they get out. That's what a lot of this movie is. Just scenes. A little trivia to notice that Tony Curtis is Jamie Lee Curtis's father. Speaking of being fathers, Lon Chaney Jr. is in here. He plays the leader of a town, and for some reason he likes Poitier and Curtis and wants to see them get away. The thing I love most about this film is its history, that Stanley Kramer was able to get away with a topic like this in the 50s. Kramer always tackled topics that no one else dared to touch. like genocide, Darwinism, the mind of a psychopath, Down syndrome, and others. This is not the first time Kramer has touched upon the topic of racial discrimination. He made a film back in the 40s called Home of the Brave, in which an African American is placed in an all-white platoon. Anyway, this is my favorite film. I love the story, the acting, the cinematography, the costumes, the director, and especially its history. So go see it now. Whew! Well, that was my top 50 favorite films. I hope you all enjoyed it because it was a lot of work putting this together. This took longer than I thought. I may do another one of these in the future depending how the list changes because I'm not going to redo this list every time number 50 gets changed. Let's just say I'll do it every time 40% of the movies change. So that was my top 50 favorite films. Hope you found it interesting, and hope I introduced you to some films you haven't heard before. So stay safe, stay in school, don't smoke marijuana, whatever. Bye.